I think the word being should be synonymous with inclusive. And if it is, then we'll actually have people say, okay, from an inclusive perspective, what is it about? What are we all about?
Take one.
Summer of 2020, there was this gruesome event in the US where a black man, for whatever reasons, was killed. That man had a cop have his knee on his neck for 8 minutes. He was pleading, begging for his mother, and still nothing happened.
The George Floyd incident, that catalyst was really a kind of unifying moment in terms of looking at ourselves holistically and saying, well, what are we doing in terms of the race conversation?
As a black person, you hear of those things and it infuriates you. And the next day, guess what? Put on your clothes, 9 a.m., you're at work. You have to deliver regardless.
If you can't raise an issue where you felt uncomfortable, then you're not being yourself. And so if we're not opening up like certain avenues for clearly like issues which do affect a large portion of the firm, then that means you're expecting a large portion of the firm to not be themselves because they're coming into work and potentially facing certain issues, but not having the opportunity to speak up about them.
I think conversations about race are important. I think people should not shy away from having those conversations. I mean, the flip side of it is not wanting to know, not wanting to engage. And that's even more detrimental. So I would say people should start having the conversations and maybe start it with colleagues that you're comfortable with.
If you want to get the best out of your workers and you want them to bring their best selves to work, they need to feel like they belong there, that they can be themselves, that they're accepted, and that they can at least perform at their best, knowing that they're just comfortable.
And if you cannot have an inclusive organisation which is going to support their staff members, then ultimately you don't have a firm where people can thrive. So it's absolutely crucial to be able to have those conversations.
Having these conversations make us realize that there are problems in society that we might not recognize. And if we don't recognize that, then there's no way we can fix it.
These conversations are uncomfortable, but they're uncomfortable because they're important.
My advice to people who would like to have a conversation about race, there's definitely different ways you can do it. In the workplace, they could be just small groups, whether it's your friends, people that you work with, where you can get together and have those open conversations in a small setting where you can ask the questions that's always been on your mind and where you feel comfortable and safe.
It's important to have open, safe spaces where talking about such matters should be accepted.
That term of, safe space, if we look at it 360 effectively, let it really, really be a safe space, because we can't learn otherwise. What's important about them, more than ever now, I think, is the ability to not react when we hear something that isn't what we want to hear.
Not everybody intentionally means to be racist or intentionally needs to be rude. It could be a comment that they just haven't thought about before it left their mouth. Being able to have that conversation, being able to give them that time to reflect and then just understand how a comment might be perceived and then to do something differently. So to make a different choice and make a better choice.
Try to put yourself in someone's shoes. So like if you're scared of offending someone, just before you say something, think and say, if somebody had said this to me, how would I feel? If it makes you feel sad, then you probably shouldn't do it.
I think it is easier said than done, but as a black man, I know I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I would appreciate honesty more than anything, and I feel quite comfortable with discussing race.
But you have to take into consideration you are asking people to open up, sometimes with very deep and hurtful memories. So you just have to be coming from a place of understanding as well.
If you're considering what you want to ask or what you would like to know and being mindful that it could be a difficult topic for somebody to answer and being conscious of that, but also understanding what it is that you would like to learn, and maybe even sharing some insight from your own personal background just to warm up the conversation. I think that's definitely important.
Coming from a point of genuine interest and wanting to understand and actually being part of conversation, putting yourself out there, I think it's quite important.
First and foremost, do the reading, do the research, talk to people. Don't have that one perspective that's given to you that can feed a certain narrative.
I've had to do quite a lot of work in the last couple of years. So it's for people of colour to do the work, and also people who aren't of colour to do work as well.
If somebody asks me a question and I know it's coming from a wholesome place when they genuinely want to learn, I can take no offence from that question, because we want to get rid of ignorance, and knowledge is power. So be brave and be bold and make that first step.
People who it doesn't necessarily affect might not feel comfortable giving their sort of opinion, but the sooner we sort of overcome this barrier, the easier it is to educate people.
And just getting to see each other for who each other are, as opposed to, a perception given.
I'm not an expert. No one's an expert. Like, let's learn together. Let's learn about this all together.